Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and squirrels from all around the world. What a wonderful night this is, man! So all of the weirdness going on, and people just tend to forget all of the really important things that have happened in history, and this little bit of drama that we're dealing with, and people being copyright stricken, and look at the bigger picture of all of this. Find a little more kindness, both sides. I think Div does some really, really wonderful clip work, and I don't think Farron appreciates that, nor Chrissy Mayer or anybody else. But I'm not talking about all of that bullshit. There's plenty of people out there talking about it. They're riding it like a steam train down the middle of I-75. It's a son of a bitch. And I think that there's plenty of people out there speaking up on it, and as they should. And more kudos to them. I will only speak whenever it gets to the point that I that I get a little aggravated with it. But other than that, there's other things I think are more important. Look at this. I've returned to give Shizzy that whiz takes it back to sanity. Well, thank you, Toy Box Brain. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, you've got some pretty good stuff out there, Toy Box Brain. I watched a couple of your clips. They were good. They were enjoyable. So, I don't know. Now, some of you guys might remember this because I think Rabbit might be a couple years older than me, so Rabbit might remember all of this that happened at Wounded Knee. It was, and we're not talking about the original Wounded Knee. We're talking about the one that happened in 1973, and it was a pretty interesting time. 73, there was a lot more going on in the world at that time, and it was on this day in 1973 that on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. I just pull up the article where I got this from, and then we'll show a little bit more of this. You distract us in the sexy kind of way. And absolutely, you should enjoy the little clips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this tab instead. Yeah, Vicky T. I would have been 3, 4 at the time. I would have been 4 at the time. Let's see if I've got. Here we go. Yeah, so this is on February 27th, AIM occupation of Wounded Knee. It was in South Dakota at the Pine Ridge Reservation. Some 200 Sioux Native Americans, and they were led by members of the American Indian Movement, or AIM. And they occupied Wounded Knee, and this is where the 1890 massacre of 300 Sioux by the U.S. 7th Cavalry happened. AIM members, some of them were armed, took 11 residents of the Sioux settlement hostage as local authorities and federal agents descended on the reservation. AIM was founded in 68. Now, that was a year before I was born. And they also, from November 69 to 71, they occupied Alcatraz Island off of San Francisco, saying they had a right to it under a treaty provision granted them unused federal land. In November 72, AIM members briefly occupied the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C. to protest programs controlling reservation development. Then in early 73, they prepared for its dramatic occupation of Wounded Knee. In addition to its historical significance, Wounded Knee was one of the poorest communities in the United States and shared other Pine Ridge settlements some of the country's lowest rates of life expectancy. Rabbit was 21. I don't believe that for a second. You were like 2. You had to be 2. You're too young. I'm giving you a hard time, Rabbit. I know you got me beaten age, damn it. But we won't give you away. So, the day after the Wounded Knee occupation began, the AIM members traded gunfire with federal marshals surrounding the settlement and fired on automobiles and low-flying planes. Sorry about that. I hear this call coming in. It's in the background. It's ringing gently, and it. Oh, what could it be? Oh,
Hey
nobody.
guys.
Tish in Tennessee.
Hello. How are you?
Hello, Tish. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Just
Good.
trying to steer clear of some of the weird drama. That's all.
Yeah, good luck. So,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Divinity's outlook there, but I think
yeah,
there's enough people, and especially some other people, even here in my chat, that are you know putting the word out, and I think beating the drum too loud and too hard gets things lost in the
makes
mix.
it too noisy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get you. I've been gone all day, so I just got home and saw your message.
So
So,
how's your grandma doing?
well, they told us to come because she stopped eating and drinking, and they felt like we were hours away. And while I'm there, she drinks a quote unquote milkshake, which is an Ensure, proceeds to tell me to stand up straight, and then starts talking to me about the Jim Jones murder conspiracy stuff that she watched on TV last week,
Oh,
and then asked
nice.
me what I was doing on YouTube on Sunday. So I
She
you know,
watched mine on YouTube, didn't she?
no, but she's depending on who you talk to, she tells you she's 105. Her birth
Hmm.
certificate says 104, but I believe her saying she's 105. So,
Yes.
they had so many kids, but yeah, so she was tell me to stand up straight and tell me to ignore her quote unquote roommate who was making a racket that she was just in. I'm not going to say the word she used, but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, she's still here, and it's just,
Good.
ooh,
As
she's
long as
tough.
she's feisty and fiery.
Oh yeah, yeah. The nurse said a few weeks ago she was wearing like a shirt under her scrubs that my grandmother thought was tattoos. My
Mm.
grandmother's old, let's say that first of all, very Southern Church of Christ Christian. She's like, "Why would you go and do a devil thing like that? You need to go get that fixed." And all it was just one of these lace things under her arm. But she is not afraid to tell anybody anything. And they all seem to love her. So I mean, it's hilarious.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
she was like, "Why would you go and do that?" And then she told me about the nurse's tattoos, and I'm like, "Grandmother, it's not tattoos. That was a shirt." So yeah. But thank you for sending me the invite. Hey, Vicky
Oh,
T.
absolutely. And I figured it was a good way to have a nice wind down
Yeah,
and
definitely.
not be caught up in the drama.
Yeah,
This
and
is
I don't, I'm a relatively new creator, and I don't know. I think I've
same.
helped what I can help, if that makes sense, by retweeting. And if there was,
Yes.
if I had, I wish I had a magic wand to make it all better for Divinity because I adore
Yes.
Divinity, and
And Farron. I don't wish ill on
I don't wish
Farron
ill on
or
Farron
Megan
either. But I mean,
Fox
the
or
thing about Divinity that's bigger is she's not doing anything wrong.
no, she's not.
So I
Absolutely
mean,
not.
It
And
is
that's what
about
makes
Div, but it's not about Div, if that makes any sense. But
right.
I've never seen Divinity. Now, I've seen her go after what's right. If you remember, you and I were in a chat where we had a
Hmm.
different of opinion, and she gave
Absolutely.
factual reasons why, we might need to rethink what we're thinking. But
Yeah.
that's different than being vindictive. I've never seen her be. It's kind of like a snowball that I think has just gotten out of control, and now it's an avalanche.
Yes.
But I wish I had a magic wand.
I do
Rabbit said, "I
too.
hope I'm like that in 30 years." Yeah, I hope I am
Yeah.
too. She's that
Same.
old. I say she's mean, but I don't mean she's mean. I mean she is disciplined
She's
and tough, and yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I know exactly what you
yeah.
mean. She's
Steel doesn't touch her. So she's one that makes fun of people saying that they wanted to live in the 40s or 20s or whatever, and she's like, "Okay,
you have
they
no
didn't live
idea.
there, and I like air conditioning." And she will
Exactly.
tell you that really quickly, that we always think something was better than where we are right now. When
Yep.
the reality is where you are right now, one she used to tell us is where you live and where you're going to live, and you've got to make right now the good old days for you. Otherwise, you'll look back and everything's gone.
Yeah, and I mean,
So,
you think about
yeah.
this. Back whenever happened at Wounded Knee, I mean, the cost of living was so outrageously
Yes.
expensive.
Yes.
It was, I mean, interest rates. You think interest rates are bad right now? We're
Yeah.
talking like 16 to 20% interest rate on a house.
Yeah. And I mean, the rates are coming up. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've paid attention lately, but we're
Oh, I know.
seeing 4.25, 4.5% on intro rates on, checking and savings accounts. We haven't seen those since
Yep.
'07. But the reality of that is still not keeping up with inflation, and it's pushing all the other rates up. So
Yep.
yes, it's good for some savers, sort of. The buying power isn't as much, but kids, and I say kids, 30 and under, don't know what a, 10, 12, 14%
No.
rate is on a house. So, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
Vicky,
It
it's become a
is.
deadly avalanche. I agree.
Yeah.
But
The interest rates have, it's, they don't remember the gas lines.
no, no,
And I barely
I
remember
barely
sitting
remember
in the
them.
car and,
Yeah.
just waiting for our turn to get gas. I mean, it was,
Well, even now, the housing market, here is still what I would call a hot market, but it's
yeah,
correcting
yeah,
because what you were approved for, if you did not go ahead and close, you can't buy that much house today because
yep.
the interest rate difference. So,
We did
that we
a,
debate all of it all day long, but the reality is, this current generation is about to see sticker shock like they've never seen.
yeah, we did a refi right before all of it started
All
getting
of it
ready to go
started.
to crap. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It had just it had gotten to a point where it was we weren't going to gain anything out of doing a refi except drop it down a couple of points,
Hmm.
which is what we did. I think we were sitting somewhere around 3.8, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
We got dropped down to two,
Well, and
like,
if you're gonna stay and you've put a lot of work into where you live,
yeah,
and I've seen it, if you're gonna stay there, that's worth it long term, right?
yep,
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. And I've been in the banking industry. I'm not in that aspect. I'm in operations now, but at 27 years. So I went through the '08 and
hmm,
then saw it
oh
start
yeah,
to get a little better and then go back, and better and worse depends on who you are and what you want to do at the time. But, yeah, interest rates were about 9 to 12 in
yep,
1973. Yep.
yeah, and it all depended on where you were at. There were people that were doing as high as 16, just so
Yeah.
they could get it. I mean, your average, yeah, was 9 to 12 and 73, but it got righteously high.
Yeah. And
And I
that's a
mean,
pay what we would call a paper for 9 to 12. So that's a good credit rating, a solid work history.
yep,
That's not, you know, what I would say where a lot of people are when they're just starting out. They don't have that,
ooh,
strength of
yeah.
that yet. So,
Well,
yeah.
they'll find out. I mean, our '08 is when, let's see, it was '07. My wife bought her house. This was before we were married. We were dating, living together, and she basically put her name on the dotted line. A few months later, everything went south,
Mhm.
and she could have bought that same house for pennies
Well,
on the
and
dollar.
anyone who tells you they can time it, it's
Oh
impossible.
yeah.
Like, you can take some historical data and try and predict, but there's factors now that have never been factors before.
Hmm.
So you kinda, like you said, it's where you are, right, for the
Yeah.
day. But yeah, in this time frame, definitely the
She
interest rates were crazy.
well, she got her equity to a point in the house that she was going to
Yeah.
come out ahead. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was
Well,
it
and there are
was it
reasons
was
I've
good.
seen women who, had 25 years left on their house, but refinance for a higher rate just because it
Mhm.
lowered their payment enough they could afford their medication. So I mean, like I said, it just depends on what your goals are as to
Yep.
what you should do, and really know you gotta find a financial advisor that you can trust.
Yeah, that's what we
That's the
did.
big thing, that knows what they're talking about and not trying to make money off of you because they're or that have a little training and they think they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing.
No,
But yeah.
we actually have a really good financial advisor that helped us get some things straightened out, get our 401k. Also a little bit of
Mhm.
business advice when my wife was striking out on her own. She actually was going to be partnering up with somebody else in her area of law, and he advised her, if you're going to do that, make sure that there is no 50-50 on this. Make sure that
Mhm.
someone has even if it's 51-49,
51, 49. Yeah.
doesn't matter. You've got to have one person that can pull the plug,
Mhm.
or if not, you just run into all kinds of problems. I was like, oh,
Yeah. Kinda
so
like a marriage, right?
yeah.
Can
Yeah,
be. Can be.
mine's like 10%, 90.
Mine depends on the day, but I'm pretty lucky, so yeah.
How's that joke go? Oh, I wear the pants in the family. She just tells me which ones to wear.
Which ones to wear and what color. Yeah. Yep. Yep, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for
But
the invite. I was honored. I came home
oh no,
and saw it.
I
So,
appreciate it. I just wanted to have, like I said, a nice easy stream, and
yeah.
I saw that this, because I remember hearing about this, because the legacy of this carried on for quite some time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was AIM that was involved in this, but this really changed a lot of stuff. And I'm also going to show a short video. I don't think it's too long, and that one might give a different perspective on what was going on. I haven't watched it yet, so it'll be all new to
It'll be a
me.
surprise for everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So this particular one, they were shooting back at low-flying planes that came within rifle range. Now, Russell Means, he was the one that was leading AIM, or this particular situation. He began
Yeah.
negotiation release, demanding that the U.S. Senate launch an investigation to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and all Sioux reservations in South Dakota, and that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hold hearings on the scores of Indian treaties broken by the U.S. government, which was not uncommon, but it may not be as much as people say it was. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So the Wounded Knee lasted for a total of 71 days. That's quite a bit of time
That is
to,
quite a bit of
to
time.
holding off. And Means and Banks were arrested on September 16th, 73. The charges against them were dismissed by a federal judge because of the U.S. government's unlawful handling of witnesses and evidence. Yeah, there's also that hearing that they had for that one too. Um, Violence continued on the Pine Ridge Reservation throughout the rest of the 70s, with several more AIM members and supporters losing their lives in confrontations with the U.S. government. In 75, two FBI agents and Native men were killed in a shootout between federal agents and AIM members. In the trial that followed, AIM members Leonard Peltier was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms, with many of its leaders in prison. AIM disbanded in 78. Local AIM groups continued to function, however, and in 1981, one group occupied part of the Black Hills in South Dakota. Congress took no steps to honor broken Indian treaties, but in the courts, some tribes won major settlements from federal and state governments in cases involving tribal land claims. Russell Means continued to advocate for Native rights at Pine Ridge and elsewhere, and in 1988 was a presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. Amazing. I did not know that. In 2001's
Well, and
2001 Means.
I know every
Mhm.
yeah,
Go ahead.
every country does. Every country has broken treaties. Every country has, but we tend to have a unfortunate history of that in
Yes,
a lot of ways.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So he also Means attempted to run for the governorship in New Mexico in 2001, but his candidacy was disallowed because procedure had not been followed, which is not uncommon. Beginning
Mm-hmm.
in 1992, Means appeared in several films, including Last of the Mohicans. He also had a guest spot on HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. His autobiography, Where White Men Fear to Tread, was published in 97. Means died October 12th, 2012, at age 72.
I want to say I read that, but I mean, I'll have to
Yeah.
go see if I have it.
Yeah, so I knew a little bit about this, just from because you hear about history living in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
They would talk a little bit about this, and although yes, it's another state, but there's a pretty large amount of like Mescalero Indians in New Mexico, so
Mm-hmm.
you see quite a bit of that there. So this this is the video that I pulled up, and so if it gets me shut down for a little bit, you'll know exactly what
If
happened.
you let it play for just a few seconds and then stop, it should be okay as long as it doesn't have a lot of music.
Well, what I
So
can do is I can go back here and pull up
yeah,
manage videos, and I should be able to see this. Sorry, I'm totally boomering this.
yeah, you should be okay.
Let's see,
It's okay. It
broadcast.
takes a little bit. Hey, I'm learning as I go too, so
Yes, yeah. So
we all just try to help each other, right?
oh, I'm telling you, we got some really helpful people have been
Yeah,
in here doing this kind of stuff for me.
yeah. Rabbit said we took everything from the Native Americans and broke every treaty. My grandmother lived on a reservation when she was a child.
Oh wow. Now see, it's told in my family that I have some Native American blood in there somewhere. I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
for sure if that's true or not, because I mean, I've got family from West Virginia, and
Well,
some
I'm
of
adopted, but my adopted mother's mother was half Cherokee. So
okay.
there's a lot of, how shall I put it, chosen history there in that,
Mm,
from adoption standpoint, not
yeah.
necessarily genetic. And then her father was something called a Black Dutch, which it took me forever to figure out what that meant.
What is that?
And apparently it was a derogatory term for someone who was conceived outside of race, quote unquote.
Ah,
I have seen it talk about, an actual African American. I've seen it talk about an Indian, but it's definitely someone who, it's a slang that has a different, a, a varied multiracial, but it was, you know, no one on here has probably heard of it, but Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee, which is a very, very small, only on the map because they thought that the sulfur springs cured all, type of town. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had, and Rabbit brings this up, but I had my
Hmm.
next door neighbor, actually, that's who I lost my virginity to, was a Mescalero Indian. It was awesome. But my next door neighbor, like all of them were from what they'd say the res,
Yeah.
and they had the option to stay there, but they were just like, yeah, I mean, I just don't have the I want to do more than just depend on the government to
Hmm.
to give me a life, and
Well, and
where
be
I'm
limited by that too. It's not just
yeah
a matter of, I don't want to depend on the government, but it's also if I live there, my options are very limited, and I don't want my options to be limited.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and everybody, especially I'm looking at this, I'm seeing like in the picture of the background. Why is it not showing it? Share this tab instead. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you're on the wrong tab, I think.
Ah, there we
There you
go.
go.
So in
There
the
you go.
background, you'll see this teepee. That's not common on
No.
reservations.
No. Yeah, Vicky T said, I was told I have Black Dutch. Yeah, it was a pretty derogatory term that we didn't know was derogatory until more recent history. And it's not
Yeah,
derogatory in my mind, but it was meant to be derogatory when someone said it.
right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, with my family, it's hard to tell. I mean, there's a lot of information that floats around, and because
Yeah.
both my grandmother and my mother are like a little off in the head, it's hard for me to determine if it's actually true or if they're just making crap up as they go along. So
Yeah, not my grandmother. She's my dad's mom is the one that's still alive. There's nothing wrong with her mind.
no,
Zero.
no,
Except
no,
she
not at
now
all.
sees people that aren't there sometimes, but it's still not out of a like she remembers dates and times better than I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. My one of my old bandmates, he was half Cherokee, half full blooded Irish.
Mm,
He goes, yeah, talk about a drinking problem.
yeah. She never had a drop of alcohol in her entire life. Not one drop.
Man, that maybe
Which is just
probably why she's living so long.
she doesn't like their food because she, up until she was 101, she lived on her own still. So I mean, she was cooking her own food still, slower, but doing it. We hired her help. She talked the woman into going outside and eating a picnic of a bologna sandwich and Fritos with her, proceeded to lock the woman out of the house and called me to tell my daddy she did not need any help. She might be slow, but she could clean her own house. So,
Hey,
she's been very, very lucky.
so a little prequel on this one.
Wounded Knee, 1973. Prequel. The 1960s were a troubled time in U.S. history. The war in Vietnam and the civil rights movement marked the decade, along with great music. In the midst of all the social happenings, the American Indian movement originated in 1968, arising from the concerns of Native Americans in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shortly, the AIM. The movement.
So most of the problems were started in Minneapolis, Minnesota. What is it about the Midwest that has all these problems?
I don't know. Either it's the Midwest or that's just where we tend to hear about it from.
I guess.
Right.
It's like Florida, man.
Yeah. We'll swear you to secrecy in Tennessee.
Focused on changing the life
Yeah.
of Native Americans.
You're not
in the
telling
urban
anybody.
environment.
No.
Nope.
Addressing poverty, lack of political representation, discrimination, and police brutality. Members coordinated a neighborhood patrol to circumvent unjust arrests and police mishandling of Native residents. Clyde Bellecourt and Dennis Banks, Chippewa from Minnesota, assisted in the creation of AIM.
Oh, those are some interesting looking characters right there.
Definitely.
I don't know. I find them a little suspicious there.
I don't know. Either that or they caught them in a picture that made them look that way.
Yeah.
That's possible too.
Yeah. They look like they look like draftsmen.
You think?
Yeah, they look like engineers.
Okay.
That's what they look like to me. That's pretty much how my father dressed.
Yeah. Of course, this was what, the
73,
60s?
60s.
73?
Yeah.
Late 60s?
Yeah. Well, this would have been 68, maybe.
68. Okay.
Later, Russell Means, an Oglala Sioux, became one of the more aggressive leaders of the organization. The AIM members sponsored the Trail of Broken Treaties in 1972. Approximately 900 people traveling from Seattle and San Francisco stopped at reservations throughout the West to point out Native grievances toward the U.S. government.
That's not a bad idea, though. I mean, think
No.
about it. You take a little road trip and you basically start getting the grievances that all of these tribes are having just on your road trip, and find out that a
Almost like
lot
what
of them
was
are
it, the
probably the
train
same.
campaigns? You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? Or the
yeah.
bus tours? It
Hmm.
reminds me just a little bit of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like a
I,
bus tour.
I like
I
that
mean,
they
because
did
really it is
this.
politics, right?
Right.
I mean, you want to
Yeah.
say it's not, but it's absolutely politics.
Oh, very much politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trail ended in Washington, D.C., with the takeover of the Bureau of Indian Affairs building from November 2nd through November 8th, 19.
Now that would not happen now.
No.
You try occupying a building like that,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to end up in a world of hurt.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
1972. Negotiations between the White House administrators and AIM members resulted in an agreement that included a pledge to deal with economic, social, and educational injustice of Native Americans and to provide return travel money.
Oh, that's not bad.
Mm-mm.
So you drove all the way out here, and you'll actually give us return travel money to make our way back. Nice.
At least they were able to get home, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good way to go. Pushed in the
yeah.
forest land areas with low resources. Yeah, that's very true, Rabbit. That's usually what happened on the reservations. Each one of them, that's what that's how they were handling the Indians.
Following the death of Raymond Yellow Thunder in February of 1972 in Gordon, Nebraska, the AIM took over Gordon Community Hall. Leaders declared a victory after local officials proposed the establishment of a Human Relations Board to investigate grievances. Just 1 month before the Wounded Knee siege in Buffalo Gap, South Dakota, Harold Schmidt killed Wesley Badhart Bull. Prosecutors charged Schmidt with involuntary manslaughter. In Custer, South Dakota, AIM members protested, and the courthouse and Chamber of Commerce burned to the ground.
Ooh, yeah. That might be taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah, but if you want to kill a movement, give it to a committee or board, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's just hey, we're going to band-aid this for a minute usually.
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe that wasn't the intention. That's what you usually do is you give it to committee if you don't want it to go anywhere.
Right. Right. Because
Yeah.
they'll just sit there and argue in circles.
Yeah. Yeah.
After that, the U.S. government viewed the AIM as a militant group and increased surveillance of its activities.
As they should. I mean, you're burning down buildings and causing problems and not getting anything resolved. And I understand if you've got some grievances and they're not being taken care of, then absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, Oglala Sioux leaders requested the assistance of AIM in order to provide strength in their opposition to tribal President Richard Wilson, elected in 1972. Opponents of Wilson accused him of mishandling tribal funds, misusing authority, and disregarding rules of the tribal council. After a failed impeachment, the U.S. Department of Justice sent out 50 U.S. Marshals to the Pine Ridge Reservation to be available in the case of a civil disturbance.
Not bad.
The takeover
To be
began.
available. Yeah.
On February 27, 1973, about 200 AIM members came to the village of Wounded Knee and took over the trading post, museum, gas station, and several churches. Those involved in the takeover considered Wounded Knee of historical significance because of the 1890 massacre that occurred at the spot. In 1890, the U.S. Army killed 250 to 300 Lakota Sioux, with 25 Army casualties.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
That was a lot. That was
Mm-hmm.
super, super rough. 1890 just went in and just, yeah.
Essentially gutted it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you think that how many people, lost their life, on a, just some quick revolution,
Yeah.
think about, okay, you want to put it into comparison. Think about the months of, Occupy Wall Street. How many people lost their lives over that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're talking, 300 people
Yeah.
gone.
Just like that gone. Yeah. In a pretty
Yes.
aggressive sweep, right?
Yes. Genocide. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not, I don't think they're wanting to relive this, but they're using it as an example
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to tie something into.
Well, and most of our history books, let's face it, they're tame, right, as to the weight. For one thing, there's not the media that there is today. Meaning you couldn't have shown a video or pictures or that kind of thing. So I think
Right.
they're trying to show the gravity of it.
Yes.
Hey, Andrea. Good morning.
Andrea's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The goals set by AIM leaders were support for the reformation of tribal government, as well as bringing attention to the injustices done to Native American people. Russell Means, as an AIM spokesperson, requested congressional investigations into conditions on all reservations and the corruption of the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
And as he should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the bad part of being a revolutionary and having any sort of revolution is you put a target on your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big time.
In a lot of ways, like you put a target on your back for, people opposing you, but then you also put a target on your back for people wanting to corrupt what you're doing too. So all of it. Yeah. Yep. All of it.
Means specifically wanted a hearing to take place concerning treaties and treaty rights. News of the takeover reached U.S. Marshals at Pine Ridge, and they placed roadblocks at all entrances to Wounded Knee to prevent access to the area. U.S. Marshals and FBI...
That look a little bit like Waco?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It reminds me of Waco.
That looks so much like Waco right there.
Of course, Waco is one of those places that, I remember where I was when it happened, type of thing.
Yeah, that went on for a while. I was working. I had friends that were from Texas that were planning on driving out there that the day that they burned it to the ground.
I remember I was sitting upstairs in my mom's. I lived there. She had an apartment upstairs, and I was sitting there when that happened. I remember that very, very vividly. Like, just this was not necessary.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't as quick as you think. It went on for a couple of weeks.
Well, meaning that the final thing.
Oh,
it was too quick for how many people were there and their lives were there.
Yes.
The whole process wasn't quick, but that it burned up so fast.
And Ruby Ridge was right before that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Agents set a total of 6 roadblocks, along with 5 observation points throughout the occupation to keep people from entering or leaving Wounded Knee. However, AIM and supporters entered the area by overland routes, bringing in supplies. Law enforcement groups consisted of the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Start of the Troubles. After the takeover, sporadic gunfire between U.S. forces and the AIM marked the first days of the occupation. AIM forces fortified the area by building trenches, 9 bunkers, setting up roadblocks, and establishing foot patrols. The natives also relied on combat experience from Vietnam veterans in their ranks. The AIM stated that the occupation would end if requests were considered, and a meeting took place to discuss injustices done to Native Americans. Senators James Oberesk and George McGovern, alongside 2 aides from Senator Ted...
Yeah, McGovern. Yeah, need I say more? I say more?
No. Vicky T says she lives 45 minutes from Ruby Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. It's people. Government does not like being told that they can't do something.
No, they don't. They don't.
They they will trample. It's not the government per se, but the people in government don't
People
like
in
being.
government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't like giving up any of the power that they have.
Nope. They do not.
Senators James Oberesk and George McGovern, alongside 2 aides from Senator Ted Kennedy's office, arrived on March 1st. They agreed to congressional committee hearings and BIA officers to be transferred. Officials decided to continue roadblocks to limit entrance into the area. AIM leaders made a statement on March 4th, declaring they would leave Wounded Knee if the U.S. government left and allowed the Lakota to work out the conflict amongst themselves.
That's information I didn't know that they had.
I didn't know that either.
So they wanted to work it out amongst themselves, but how? It's really weird that they're
How
trying
would
to.
well?
How would they
And part of
working
me
things
wants to
out?
say, how would they do that? But
Yeah,
but
because
part
I
of me
don't think the
thinks,
Lakota were having a problem amongst themselves. I think they were having a problem
no,
with the U.S. government.
yeah,
That's a little odd.
Ralph Erickson, special assistant to the Attorney General, countered this proposal by stating that if the occupiers would leave Wounded Knee by March 8th, abandon weapons, and identify themselves, they would not be subject to immediate arrest. Richard Wilson organized a special police force that became known as the Goon Squad. Wilson and his forces
Fancy
participated
name,
in
right?
gunfire exchanges on
What
several
was that?
Fancy name, the Goon Squad.
Yeah.
occasions. By March 8th, both sides rejected negotiations. After that, the government removed the roadblocks, thinking the Lakota would disperse given the chance not to be arrested. Contrary to that, the AIM saw this as a victory, and more supporters entered Wounded Knee, bringing supplies and food.
Oh,
On March 11th, 4 postal inspectors entered the village to inspect postal property. The AIM took them hostage, thinking they were sent to gain information. After 4 hours, they were released, and the roadblocks were reinstalled. On the same day, the Lakota announced the creation of the Independent Oglala Nation, or ION. The ION established a provisional government and stated the return to the Treaty of 1868 as its basis.
oof. Does that sound a little soft sit right there?
Maybe, yeah. It's so funny too, whether something's a victory, a defeat, or a pivoting point really depends on who you are and how you're spinning it and how you interpret it. Because they interpreted that as a win. That really wasn't a win
No.
in hindsight, but at the time, they felt like it was the win.
Right.
Rabbit said the reservations are self-government.
Self-governing.
They are
Yeah.
not under state law, just federal law. Yeah.
Right.
Leaders stated that the ION would negotiate with the United States, nation to nation. Their demands were now changes within the Bureau of Indian Affairs, meetings with government administrators, tribal President Richard Wilson to be removed from office, suspension of the tribal constitution, a return to government as it existed under the Indian Reorganization Act, and negotiations based on the 1868 treaty. The day after, FBI agents pursued a van that attempted to enter the village. In the pursuit, a firefight broke out, and an FBI agent took a wound to the wrist. In order to assist the AIM and the Lakota, supporters created the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee and managed to negotiate that 6 lawyers.
What doesn't look like a good plan right there?
No, it doesn't.
That is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Just really bad idea. You've got brush around you. I don't see this as being a good plan of attack.
No. For self-defeating plan of attack.
Yeah. Well, stupid people
Yeah.
do stupid things.
Or people focused
Each-
on something can not see other things around it. They just zone in on what they're trying to get to without, looking at kind of what's around.
They don't see the woods through the trees.
Yep. In this
with
case,
a carload of food to enter Wounded Knee each day from March 26th through March 31st. Law enforcement agreed to the deal, but Richard Wilson and his police set up the roadblocks and seized all food from the cars. Gunfire exchanges between forces occurred sporadically. Both sides established, violated, and reinstated ceasefires. AIM security, U.S. forces, and on occasion the tribal police exchanged fire. On March 26th, there was heavy firing after Wilson set up a roadblock outside the federal perimeter. During this exchange, U.S. Marshal Lloyd Grimm received a wound that paralyzed him from the waist down.
Oh,
By the end of April 2nd, deaths occurred. As a result of increased gunfire, Frank Clearwater and Lawrence Lamont died. Both forces established a ceasefire after that. After multiple failed negotiation attempts, leaders from the Civil Rights Division
just the cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Just, here we got this. We're pulling off this dead body here. Let's have a cigarette.
Why not, right?
Why not?
failed negotiation attempts, leaders from the Civil Rights Division and
Could be wheat too. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
6 FBI agents met with AIM and Lakota leaders to discuss the misuse of tribal funds and complaints of harassment from Wilson's forces. Negotiations moved forward. On April 5th, the U.S. government and AIM leaders signed a dispossession agreement. The terms of the agreement stated that Russell Means should submit himself for arrest and be taken into custody, and on April 7th at 7 a.m., AIM leaders were to lay down their arms. A meeting would take place between AIM leaders and a representative of the White House to discuss the possibility of looking into the matter of Indian treaties. Means was arrested and, after he made bond, left for Washington, D.C. The agreement proved faulty, as Means stated that the AIM at Wounded Knee never agreed to lay down arms until the conclusion of a White House meeting.
Ooh.
By April 24th, a negotiation team returned to Wounded Knee, led by Kent Frizzell. The U.S. government still preferred to negotiate with the AIM forces rather than resort to any aggressive attack. On May 5th, Leonard Garment, consultant to the president, sent a letter to Frank Foolscrow. The letter stated that White House representatives would meet with the Teton Sioux in order to examine the 1868 treaty. This meeting would not take place until the dispossession of Wounded Knee occurred. Both forces signed the dispossession agreement on May 5th. The agreement contained specific steps to be implemented on May 9th at 7 a.m. All persons were to leave Wounded Knee and identify themselves, and those with outstanding warrants would be arrested. Dispossession. By May 8th, half of the AIM community had left Wounded Knee. According to the timetable agreed upon, government forces entered Wounded Knee to collect all weapons and transport remaining AIM supporters to the government roadblock. Defense Committee lawyers remained at the government roadblock to witness the processing procedure. Out of the 129 people processed, 110 were Native Americans. Federal forces destroyed AIM security bunkers, along with government bunkers, and completed the evacuation of Wounded Knee by the end of the day. Several issues influenced the AIM decision to end the occupation, such as lack of food, electrical power, and medical supplies. The occupation had lasted 71 days.
They basically just kind of
Aftermath.
waited them out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what that is.
Yeah. I mean, wow. See, that's the hard part about doing some sort of occupation, especially if you're not self-sufficient already. It becomes impossible.
Yeah.
You've got women and children that are probably there. Kids are starting to get hungry. You've been too busy, arguing with the government to actually, get yourself set up to, be self-sustaining.
Well, you're running on emotion, not on logic. And when you run on emotion, which is 100% understandable, right? But the problem is you can't live on emotion indefinitely.
No.
Like, it can sustain you for a while, and then you have to, you see the pain of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
On July 17th, a proposal for a Senate joint resolution in order to establish an Indian Policy Review Committee was made.
Look at that. They're in a committee meeting smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, that's
Those are
not something you see now.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. Now you see them wearing masks.
Well, sort of. Everybody I see wearing masks are wearing them like right here.
Yeah.
Like today, where we were on the hospice side, you have to wear a mask. But nobody was actually like they were wearing them on their ears. The nursing
Yeah.
staff was not actually on their face. So I'm
Yeah.
like, why are we having to wear this? So
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
Just listening and dozing off. Oh,
aw,
hopefully it's nice and
you won't hear
easy.
any yelling. So
You won't hear any yelling or screaming. I
yeah,
won't be
so you should
freaking out.
okay. Well, yeah.
I wonder if it's a mess
Yeah.
there is just due to corruption. Yeah, I mean
Probably
that's
both.
yeah, that's always a big problem. I mean, a lot of people talk about, oh well, what is it, the Cherokee have casinos and or
Mhm.
Sioux or whatever, but
Okay.
they really don't.
No.
That's the thing about it. There's just a few that are actually running those, and those are the ones running the money. And do you think that they're helping their communities out? Just saying,
Yeah.
you know, they've
Even if
found
they think they are, they're probably not to the
right,
extent that they could be.
right.
Yeah.
I wish they would do more, but hey, money corrupts.
Yeah, my husband and I were talking today about churches, right? That churches could, how many of them are running into the millions and millions of dollars in reserves? They could wipe out poverty
Oh yeah,
with one coordinated brush, right?
yep.
But nobody really wants to do that.
Nope. No, why would you do that?
Yeah,
Having a subservient crowd is much better.
it's better. Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had somebody say, "Why don't you start up a church? Your beliefs are so out there that you would have such a great following." I was like, "Yeah, no,
Well, it worked for L. Ron Hubbard.
yeah,
Sort of.
Yeah,
It didn't work
it
out in
did.
the end for him. I mean, it could have worked
Well,
out better.
I heard that was a bet between him, Rod Serling, I think that's right, and somebody else to see who could
And I'm
have a
not knocking
church.
anybody's religion, trust
Oh
me, at all.
no, I'm
That's
not.
not what I mean. It's just, you
I'm
know,
not. I knock large organized religion that
yeah,
is, you know,
anything that
hypocritical.
only benefits the people at the top.
The Church of Shizzy. Actually, you know, I thought about that, you know, and we couldn't call it the Church of Shizzy at all, Vicky T. It would have to be the Church of Nuts.
You would
All my
probably get
all
a
my
lot of followers that way.
all my followers would be
The
nuts.
squirrels. All your followers would be squirrels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah. It's like they're all squirrels. So, or squirrely, one of the two.
Oh no, I couldn't do it. But yeah, no, I knock large organized religious groups that are very hypocritical. I've been that way for a very long
Yeah.
time. It's not something new to me, and I'm not knocking people that go to church. I think
No,
that's
absolutely not.
beautiful
Absolutely not.
because man,
Yeah.
the best community that you could possibly have are from, you know, people in your community, especially
Yeah.
a church community.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
have to have those. I don't have to have the same religious beliefs as somebody else, but I think that everybody should have the right to freely exercise their religion. My
Yes.
the stuff that I put down on is the people that use that as a
Weaponize it.
yes,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
or as a shield to protect themselves from, you know,
Or that believes something or someone is coming back, but they always say that in the vein of punishing people,
yeah,
not in the vein of wanting everyone to do well and be well.
right.
So I always find that fascinating.
I always want people to be well and do well and
Yeah.
love one another.
Yeah.
You know, all the hatred and crap like that. You have to understand. I was in the military. I learned how to actually, you know, cause serious, grave harm to people and, equipment.
Yeah.
And I still don't agree with war. I know that it's necessary, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Its purpose included a review of the legal relationship between Native Americans and the U.S. government, and to provide support for the development of more effective policies. During 1974, Russell Means lost a campaign against.
You know who this is, right? She was an actress that got up and basically was putting down the Academy, and she turned out to be pretty much a little bit of a fraud. I mean, she's still American Indian, but she really outdid herself to,
Which, unfortunately, when you have somebody like that, then they want to point at that person and say, see, this is all nothing, when the reality is it's a very huge problem, but the wrong person came to the forefront of it.
And where have we seen this recently?
It's over and over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a meaningful cause. It's just a meaningless person doing it.
And there's the danger, because when that person, I can't remember, I want to say it was Alice Cooper that was talking about, almost positive it was, that the devil loves it when someone who is popular as a preacher falls, because then they can say, hey, see, this is what they're all about, when it's not what they're all about.
No,
but because that's the person that has the most attention and the spotlight, then people want to use that to be dismissive, or they want to use that to say, see, I was right the whole time, when the reality is there are hundreds and hundreds of real ones making a big difference with people every day. But what we focus on is the names that we know, not the ones that we don't.
Well, and that was one of the things that I brought up with the whole Eliza Blue stuff was, the message is very clear.
Very clear. Yeah.
And I want to see her do really good and call out all of the BS. I mean, it was so much for me that I actually was following her whenever I first heard it. I was like, oh, that's something I can stand behind. But the more that I listened to her, it's like, okay, there's other stuff that you've got to be able to talk about. It just seems like you're talking in circles to the same group of people and not really getting anything done. That's the only thing that was aggravating to me.
Rabbit said that the reservation police and fire department are top of the line. Oh, the Native American casinos here are helping community. Good. They established a huge free medical clinic, open to all. The reservation school is also really good, because I'm a big believer in, if you level the educational playing field and accessibility, that's where you make the most difference everywhere. The reservation police and fire department are also top line. They are improving reservation housing. That is awesome to hear.
It is. And like I said, there's some that are not doing.
There's some that are not, but the ones that are,
kudos to them. Kudos to them, because that's what I would love to see more of.
I'm a big believer in, especially with government funded schools. I live in an area that happens to be a quote unquote A-rated governor school district. Mm-hmm. That should be no different from safety, quality of education, quality of food, the whole thing, than something in an area that's, lower impoverished. That kids should be able to go to school the same way, and there's no reason why they can't.
There is.
Yeah. Well,
politics,
but no actual reason why they couldn't be.
No, there's no logical reason why they should.
And everybody wants to point to the one person who pulled themselves up, like a Hope Bryant, for example. One of the economics served under two presidents or three presidents, both parties. But the reality is there's so few of them versus the total.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quapaw
and
I'm not sure the pronunciation.
Wyandotte tribes are taking care of their people. Good.
Yeah, that's very good. That
Rabbit, I
absolutely is
hope I
very good.
pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, please correct me. But I was doing it phonetically. So,
Yeah, my grandmother said, because she was as Irish could be. We're talking red hair, blue eyes,
the whole
pale
nine
skin.
yards.
But
Yeah.
she was saying that, family comes from, and she named off the tribe, and I couldn't even
Hmm.
tell you. And it was a small tribe. So I was like, I don't know. you know,
Well, and I think too, you
Wyandotte.
the Netflix and some of the TV shows that are out there, give an impression of the reservation, impression of how why and dot. I said with a
Yes.
southern accent. I'm sorry, but
Wyandotte.
they give an impression of the casinos, an impression of the people. You've watched Goliath recently on Amazon Prime, and you assume that everything's that dramatized version of things, and that's not
Yeah.
true.
No.
Montana Res does not take care of their own.
Nope.
Vicky T was saying.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
I headed up there.
Richard
Yep.
Wilson for the tribal president at Pine Ridge. Means was concurrently on trial in St. Paul, Minnesota, on charges from the Wounded Knee incident. The trial lasted for over 8 months and resulted in the dismissal of all charges against both Means and Dennis Banks. In the 3 years following the standoff, Pine Ridge had the highest per capita murder rate in the country, resuming a quiet war. 2 FBI agents were among the dead. Today, the Pine Ridge Reservation is the largest community in what may be the poorest county in the entire United States.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough right there. Just to know that largest community in the poorest place in the United States. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my biggest problem with expecting the government to take care of everything.
Yeah. And I mean,
if they were allowed to move to wherever the hell they wanted to basically, be able to, build their community up, I think they would be good.
no, Rabbit, that's okay. She's saying sorry, I'm biased.
No,
No,
don't you?
no.
Don't ever
Your
be sorry.
contribution is great.
I'm so glad that you do. That
Yeah.
somebody really should keep up with.
Well, talking about government in 2010, we had a 100-year flood here. And I mean, you want to talk about devastating, like I-40, if you're familiar with that, was shut down because it was in pieces. And the most effective group was Convoy of Hope. It was not anything to do with the government at all. One of the local churches, Life Church, well, not local, they're all over the place. Life Church helped fund them getting in here. And I mean, like they were bringing Home Depot buckets where people were trying to do the best they could, right? And they were trying to give food and clothing. They didn't have anywhere to put that stuff.
Yep.
Whereas Convoy of Hope was bringing bleach tablets and, yard line and clothespins for pictures that wouldn't damage the picture. And, they really knew what they were doing.
Yep.
But they were the ones that did the most impact versus, say, FEMA or anybody else that came.
Oh yeah.
And because it was, when I say it brought Nashville to us, I've got pictures. I need to cover it at some point in the video, but it brought us to our knees. I mean, I had one of my grandkids, I couldn't get home for 4 days because I couldn't go the interstates or the back roads, either one, to take her home. We had never had anything like that before.
Well, I have someone very close to me that was handling stuff for the Red Cross in what was it, the Hurricane Katrina.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize that Louisiana wasn't hit by Katrina. There was no direct hit. The direct hit was actually along the coast, was at Alabama. And literally wiped it out. We're not talking just floods. We're talking about wiped
completely out.
And that community came back together and they rebuilt it with very little government funding.
Yeah.
They used it, but very little government funding. There's still places in New Orleans that will never be occupied again, that people have
Yeah.
just left sit there to rot. And they're living in a trailer. They're still living in FEMA trailers there.
And that's horrible to think about.
Years later, because they just don't have the wherewithal, or they keep asking for the money.
Well, and probably nobody knows where to start and how to bring it together. And
oh no, they do. They just won't let them. They won't let them. Like I said, she was working with the American Red Cross, and she said she that was part of her area that she was handling, and she would go in there, and it's like, these people don't want any help. You're offering to get them the help they need, but there's certain things that you have to do to get that kind of help.
Yeah.
Hey, Cool Frog, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, Cool Frog.
And she was just so frustrated, because it's like, these people, we can give them help, but the help is not unlimited. We can't just, go in and do this. They actually have to do something for themselves. And it's so frustrating, because here you've got this community that gets wiped out, and everybody gets together and it's taken care of.
Well, they didn't really have a choice.
What was it? That
Yeah,
flood that you had in Tennessee, how long did it take before they had that stuff taken care of?
I'm going to say
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, 2-3 weeks. I will say this, a lot of the churches here have construction groups that went and did, like, helped with elderly with the roof or whatever.
Yep.
That is where that was my first encounter with Facebook, actually. It was the first encounter when I saw what it could do. So instead of one of the guys, I know him, his name was Tony Young, pulled together a bunch of different churches and said, okay, everybody with trucks, we need you here. We don't need trucks over here. Over here, we need people that can clean. If you can come answer the phones at the church, go here. So it was really a new way, so to speak, to help deploy help. Yes. Versus having to make those same phone calls back and forth. If you, they did have some qualifications, but if you can babysit, come to this church, because they're going to bring all the kids there so that the families could help clean up. So it was really powerful to see what social media in the right place used by the right people can do.
Yep. And also the people were jumping in to help out.
Yeah.
And, looking after each other.
I mean, we were delivering, helping deliver the buckets. And at first people didn't want them. They're like, no, because they had people come try to give them frozen food. They don't have electricity.
Yeah.
And well-intended, right? But when they saw what was actually in them, then they come back and say, hey, can we have a couple more?
Yeah.
So people that know what they're doing can really, really help. And I wouldn't have had a clue where to start. I mean, I might have done the same thing, right? Brought food or brought clothes or something, but they had nowhere to put any of that.
No, you're better off bringing them MREs and, some fresh water than anything else. You know, it's like, oh, but that's some horrible food. Yeah, but it
doesn't matter. It's shelf stable. And of course the South, it was in May, and the South is where it's hot.
Yes.
It's miserable here. Right. And then on top of that, with the water, where a lot of it had receded, you had a lot of mosquitoes, more so than normal.
Mm-hmm.
You had the dam, they had decided to release it rather than, and that was a big controversy, because they're saying they could have given people more warning, but that once water goes over a dam, you can't get it back. So they released it. And of course that caused even more flooding in some places. So, and even though that was minor on a big scale, say Katrina here, I can see where lack of communication and the wrong people in charge can have, really devastating results.
Well, and that was the thing, is people were told to evacuate New Orleans because they were concerned that they couldn't handle, the infrastructure couldn't handle the amount of rainfall that was going to be happening there. And and of course, whenever this shit started failing, because people don't realize that New Orleans lives in a bowl. It is in a bowl.
Below sea level. Yeah.
Below sea level. And they have pumps that pump water out to keep them, from sinking. Not all of New Orleans is like that, but a good majority of it
is. Yeah.
And, that's all it took, is just disrepair, and things start going awry. And you ask, well, why would it be in such disrepair if it was just poor government handling? That is wrong. That is a big no, because New Orleans or Louisiana overall, they have a different system that's set up as far as their state government. And to get government funding, they had to do certain things like lower their drinking age. And for years and years, they fought that. And basically, the government said, well, if you don't lower your drinking age, we're not going to send funding for your roads. And so the money that would have been spent on other things, they were spending on their roads. Just mismanagement.
Yeah.
You know,
There's so many things like that that we don't know. Because on the surface, you can look at something and think, okay, why are they not? How could they not? But then there's always this backstory piece there's always something you don't know. I joke about the men behind the curtain. There's always somebody, what you see is not usually what's actually there. Because you're
Right.
only seeing it from one direction and one dimension. Even if you're looking straight at something live, you're not looking at it from the backside. So there's always more than one angle.
Always.
Be careful about what you say because you are probably going to be proven wrong by the next sentence that somebody says.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
The second you say, I know, that's dangerous. You can say, I strongly believe, I think, but, we're one document away from everything being turned upside down in history, let alone, everything else. Things we don't know can fill volumes. So,
Exactly.
Andrea, so last major cyclone here, they sent people south. Thing is, cyclone turned up and hit the refugee.
One row in and one row out to Darwin. Oh
my God.
Yeah. That happens, and it sucks. Yeah, I mean, and here I pulled this up today, and I was checking this out. So, Italy migrant tragedy, death toll over 60, dozens missing. Death toll rose to 63 in the migrant tragedy off Italy's southern coast, after rescue crews recovered several more bodies Monday, driving home once again the desperate and dangerous boat crossings of people seeking to reach Europe. Dozens more were believed to be missing. I mean, this is just so sad. Many of them did not know how to swim, and they saw people disappear in the waves. They just saw them die. Giovanni Benedetto of Doctors Without Borders, which sent psychologists to help survivors. I'm sorry. I would think that you need more than just psychologists to help survivors. More were feared dead, given survivor accounts on the boat, which set off from Turkey last week, carrying 170 people.
Good night.
A few hours later, the Rescue Coordination Center said only one body had been recovered in the afternoon. The discrepancy wasn't immediately explained. The center also said in a statement that 2 Coast Guard vessels and 1 Border Police boat would keep up the search overnight, while on Tuesday morning 2 helicopters and special ed divers would resume their search. Authorities in the southern city of Crotone asked relatives to provide descriptions and photos of loved ones to identify them in a makeshift morgue at a sports arena.
Wow.
Yeah, just breaks up off the Italian coast. The beach was just littered. Oh, I don't want to hear that. Toddler sneaker.
When you see shoes.
So many of the victims were Afghans, including family members of large families, as well as Pakistanis, Syrians, and Iraqis. Afghans were the second top nationality to seek asylum in the EU last year. They have increasingly fled the spiraling security, humanitarian, economic troubles that followed us leaving in 2021. Yeah, you think things don't have consequences. Yeah. On Monday, 2 Coast Guard vessels searched the seas south off of Cutro while a helicopter flew overhead, and they patrolled the beach. Just overcrowding, just looking to leave.
Well, and I don't know. It's been years since I've been there. I don't know if it's like But when I went to Puerto Rico for the first time, I was 18, which was 32 years ago. The ferries that they used to get people across, that you just held your breath the entire time.
Yeah.
From one place to another, because they were way, like, you couldn't even turn overcrowded. They didn't have life jackets for everybody. That was pretty obvious. All you have to do is count for 5 seconds. Just that nothing's going to happen, right? Type of thing. Darwin Burns. Whoa.
Thousands of hundreds of boats a year, countless for the smugglers. Yep. It's rough.
Yeah.
People looking to see that grass appears greener on the other side, and not having any way of going up against their government.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough. I mean, that my heart goes out to anybody that's in a tough situation, but
because there's no win, right? No matter, I mean, there may be small victories, but there's no real win. Vicky and Rabbit were talking about tornadoes. We're about to go into our tornado season here.
Yep.
So, and I know you are too, where you are.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so funny. I've got a daughter-in-law from Michigan who was mad at my son because they had a tornado watch and he's like doing nothing, right? And because we don't even pay attention until it becomes a warning, and then we might.
Yeah.
Right. She's terrified, and we're not going for cover. I'm like, honey, you're just gonna have to hang on, because he's lived here. We live through this all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we've had some bad ones, but he's not going to do anything until it's a warning. If you want to do something, you do it, but he's not going to.
I mean, whenever I hear that there's a tornado watch, that's whenever I will pay closer attention to the news.
But you're not doing. Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing to do, because until it makes any sort of, it becomes a warning that something's hit.
Yeah.
Then
my first thing is to leash my dogs.
Yeah.
Because if I have to get them corralled pretty quickly. But yeah, Rabbit, I live in Tornado Alley. Yeah, Nashville's become Tornado Alley in later years. East Nashville's been hit significantly twice in the last 3 or 4 years. We had where I work, one of our buildings had to be basically redone. And some of that area, if you come to visit Nashville and drive down near East Nashville near the river, some of those businesses are still not back. And that was in 2020.
Yeah,
There's just so much damage.
I lived in New Mexico, and trust me, it's
and we're at the time they were infrequent enough that we weren't prepared. Right. Now we're more prepared, because the frequency is definitely. Johnson City, where my in-laws live, they never have tornadoes or tornado warnings, and they had one last year. So it's definitely, shifting. So yeah. Our place got blown away 3 months after we moved to Montana. Vicky, that had to be awful.
Yeah. That is so sad. I
hate that.
Yeah, I don't like bad weather.
Nope. I came home in the wind today, and my mom went with me. I said, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not used to somebody being in the car with me, because I drive, 15, 16 hours some days by myself. And I said, okay, we're going to have to not talk for just a few minutes till we're out of this, because the car was kind of wanting to be pushed over. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I need to pay attention to those trucks, because, a lot of times their loads are not even. So I make a habit of not running beside them.
Yeah, and I always find that really odd whenever I'm coming up on you'll have people. People don't realize that if you are in the far left lane, you're in the fast lane, you should be going faster. That's a passing lane. Everything that's in the right lane usually is driving slower. For what reason people do this, I have no idea. They go and pull in front of you because you're coming up alongside of them doing 73, 74 miles an hour.
Yep.
And they're doing 65 behind a truck that's doing 60. They pull out in front of you, and then they slow down to the same speed the truck is going. It's just like.
And you're like, please. Andrea said, is the house built to withstand tornado?
No.
I don't think that house. I mean, I know that there are ones that can withstand an earthquake better, but I don't think there's one that can completely withstand.
There's.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, I think there's construction that fares better, right?
Yes.
I We used to live in a mobile home on 13 acres.
Those are
Luck-
magnets.
Luckily, my husband had anchored it, fairly well compared to some of them, but that's not something I did not mind not living there. Not to knock
Yeah.
anyone in mobile homes, trust
No.
me, but just
No.
here, it wasn't a
Those are
fabulous place. I do think older structures tend to fare better if they're well maintained. If
yes.
they're not, then 123 years old.
Yeah.
I bet there's history in those walls.
I drove
Away
Brands.
from. Oh my gosh.
Yes. I've done that a couple of times living in New Mexico. Like literally look in my rearview mirror and see a tornado rolling up behind me, and I'm not about to slow down to see how close it actually is.
The closest that one of us has come to write something serious was my son was 5, and we had one in. I couldn't get to him because it had come through and devastated several areas, and the daycare. No, I'm taking it back. He was 3. The daycare instructor took him to her house because I couldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a matter of I left late. It was a matter of I spent 3 hours on the interstate. It picked up their car and turned it the other way and set it back down. And he still, I don't think he actively remembers it, but there's something about the sky turning green that triggers him a lot. And he's 30 and still can't hardly drive in weather like that. But it literally picked it up and turned it the opposite way. Vicky said I had 3 little kids screaming and puking in the backseat. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and just think, Andrea's house isn't much older than your mother.
Only by about, depending on who you want to believe, only by about 9 or 8 years. Yeah, than my grandmother. Yep.
Oh, I'm sure your grandmother.
And she's not the only sibling that's
in
the hundreds. She's got 3 others that are in their hundreds. So that whole family
just
kind of won a genetic, lottery there. But I don't know that I would want to live long enough to see, her youngest daughter gone and her favorite grandchild, which was the oldest, which was the first boy. I don't know that I would want to live and go through that. I think that would be painful, but she's firecracker.
My wife will probably outlive me and any husband that she has after me.
You and the replacement players, is that what you're going to say?
I'm
Vicky,
sure.
It picked up the car and it turned it the opposite. So it literally picked it up and put it in the opposite lane, going the wrong direction. And I mean, I've seen pictures of it, and they're lucky they didn't get killed, but no real, I mean, there was some damage to the car, but not like you would think.
Yeah.
I know that they had a bag of jewelry picked up by somebody at the mall that had let go of it, and it was found 4 cities later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
because it had the receipt in it. That's the only way they knew who it belonged to with the name on it.
Tornadoes are insane creatures and unpredictable. Just,
I would know something's coming though a couple of hours before we have any weather or starts shaking. So anything with lightning, way before it starts, he will start pacing. And I don't know where you went. And the one that jumped up and bombed your stream there for a second, he will start shaking like crazy. And he's the one I know that something's coming when he acts like that. So you gonna get yours? Oh my gosh! Hi, baby.
Yeah, he's only down here whenever storms are about to happen.
Yeah. Thor's usually, and he wants to sit on my head, and he's like 85 pounds, so it doesn't work out quite well. But yeah.
Yeah, he only comes and harasses me. I mean, he's got like these little bitty legs.
Mm-hmm. He's a sweetie.
Yeah, he's an absolute doll. Yeah, he's the only one that hangs out whenever the weather is getting nasty.
Yeah. The rest of them don't seem to care one way or the other unless it's really bad. But Thor, I can tell if it's going to lightning because he starts. I can tell if it's going to be a rough night. Hi, baby.
Yeah.
You know me. I love dogs.
Yeah, this guy is.
I like cats, but they would not belong for this world in my house. So I do like cats. People are like, you don't like cats. Yes, I like cats. But
I mean, look at the ears on this guy.
Hi. I know he can't hear, but still, hi, baby.
He's like, you're making fun of me.
No, I'm
making
not
fun of me.
making fun of you. You're
No,
sweet.
trust me, he can hear a bee farting in Kentucky. Those ears.
I love that. He can hear a bee fart in Kentucky. I'm gonna have to steal that with somebody. I'm gonna steal that in an argument with my brother or something. But yeah.
Yeah,
So cute.
he's really awesome. I disturbed his sleep.
Yeah, in my stream sometimes somebody's like, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" And I have to turn around like, "Which one?" Because there's a few of them.
There's 3 of them.
There's 4 here, so it's like I don't know. Yeah, Thor's behind me right now, so that means there's going to be storm tonight because he's already starting.
Well, I've got my camera situated where you can't see.
Are you saying hi, baby to Shiz or the puppy Tish? I will never tell. No, the puppy. Did you like my answer to your question on Twitter? It would depend on which way you're running.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you like my answer?
I did. I was like, that's awesome. So.
Scott Cardle thought it was pretty funny too.
Yeah. I was just like, I was trying to think of something to say, and that just popped in my head. I was like, it depends on the way you're running. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like it just depends. So, but,
yeah, I was having fun.
You gotta have some humor, right?
Well, and that's how I find most of Twitter is just humorous. Like all this drama that's going on right now, I understand that people are upset, but
sure.
It doesn't do any good to have 20 people like just going at it. And
yeah, I mean, if I had something productive I could do, then I would be glad to.
Yeah, same.
And
I'll
I'll retweet what I can, and I'll contact who I can, and all that stuff. But
that's all I can do. I'm not gonna get in a big battle over it, because I think that in the end that Div will win this.
I do too. I do too, and I hope she does. Like I think she's in the right, and I think she represents a lot of creators, and I think they don't understand what.
Yep.
Even the ones that are perpetuating it don't exactly understand what they're starting. All they're looking at is what they want today. Well, turnabout tends to be fair play, right?
Well, and all of us clip something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us do it differently.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it. It's like I just clipped something from the American Indian movement, Native American history. Make sure that you can go
something else,
and you can always go over there and hit like and subscribe to them. They got 80,000 subs, and they seem to be pretty straight up, and they've got a bunch of other stuff on there that I might just have to do that on Mondays.
Yeah.
Just something interesting, to cover, because I just don't want to have these big, long, drawn out 3-hour streams of anger and hatred. And
I understand why some are doing that. I absolutely understand it. Like I said, I don't feel like I don't think I have a lot to contribute other than what I've already said. And
right.
I will retweet. I appreciate Madcore, and I do get irritated though in one of the streams where they were saying that Sparky was trying to be Divinity's white knight as if she needs a white knight. Just because a guy's saying a girl is right, then he's trying to be a white knight is stupid.
No,
no, he's trying to stand up for what is right.
He would have done that for Darth Hideous. He would have done that for Madcore. He would have done.
But because he's doing it for a female, there has to be a white knight. I don't think Divinity's looking for a white knight. She's not. She doesn't need to be rescued. She needs to be validated for what she's doing right.
She needs to be backed up. Exactly.
I got a vid of my puppy Poodle attacking the furry cat. He lips are so cute. Yeah. I want to see that so bad.
That is awesome.
I told her I can't have I keep hinting to my husband about another puppy, and he's like, well, if you really want, which means, Tish, please think about this before you go get another one. So I told Vicky I was going to live vicariously through her for the puppy.
You should. No. You absolutely should, because I told my wife she was like, oh, look at this other cute puppy. I was like, no.
Yeah, the same person.
Right now, the animals are outnumbering the dogs.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before, and we're not letting this happen. And I said, you want to do travel, but you don't
Yeah,
want to, you have a
can't
hard
with
time
yeah.
leaving these pups with people, and we're not going to go through that. So if you
I
want
am
to do
so blessed. My
travel,
son will move in, like and his wife. They have cats, so they'll come here because
right.
the TV's bigger. And the food, I make sure the food is completely stocked and pay them and
Yeah.
all that. But I mean, for us to kennel all four, no.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
No, it's not fair to them either.
No.
But yeah, Vicky, I'm going to live through you with that. I already told you that. So I expect more pictures, young lady. I think I've only got a couple. So
Yeah.
I'd love some more.
Yeah, you should be posting up those pictures.
Yeah.
Posting them up for the ladies out there.
Yes. Yes. Like I said, I'm living vicariously through you. And my husband's like, don't you have a friend that just got a puppy? I'm like, yes. Like, why don't
Yes.
you go play with that? I'm like, oh, well.
Okay.
And let's face it, I don't think I can handle anything else drug outside because this little one is just, if I added it, the expert was saying he added it up. I said, oh no, I don't want to do that because I want to continue to, I'm kidding. I would love him anyway, but,
Yeah.
you know, he buried a phone. That's why I have a new phone.
So. Yeah. My wife is due for a new phone. Hers is starting to die out. She's had it for a while, but
yeah. 14. This isn't bad. This is actually, of all of the iPhones I've had, I'm more impressed with this one than I have been.
Which one is
others. It's a 14.
Okay.
So it's not horrible. The other one, what he did was when he buried it, after it had been underground for a few hours, it kind of jacked everything up with it. So I was due. It was a 6. So compared to my 6, yeah, it was. No, we're not talking about you. We're talking about your brother. Yeah.
So that was what my wife had.
It's here somewhere in pieces.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
The difference between the two.
But he did say, you are getting another OtterBox, right? The OtterBox people, they replaced the case with no problem at all. In fact, sent me a different size case after I emailed them and sent them pictures. Because normally you have to send it to them and wait and all that. But after I sent the pictures and how long I'd had it and the damage to it that he managed to do, they just sent me another one. Said, don't bother with it.
Yep.
Because it was pretty obvious.
I went to what was it? Best Buy, and I got a screen guard.
Yeah, I've got one on this one too.
And they replaced it for free.
I don't know, in this pile of
whenever it cracked, because I crack them all the time. The little screen guards I crack all the time.
I drop mine. Because my husband would be like, okay, there it is for the day. I'm like, no, not yet. So because I drop them.
They replaced it.
Yeah.
They just I walk in there and I set it down, and they were like, oh, did you have that done here? I go, yep. And they go, okay. They pull the old one off, put a fresh one on. They pull up the receipt from the old one.
On a stream where I held up the phone. It was.
Yeah.
It looked like it had been smushed by what is it when you take it to cars and they crush the cars?
Crusher.
That's what it looked like. But what had happened, it's because it had been, buried for so long that, because I couldn't find it for 2 days, but I have my watch, so I knew, and I have my iPad, so I mean I could still talk. But he buried it.
So let me show you something here if I can find it. I've got this picture that's absolutely awesome. It is something that was sent to me, well, that I found in my backyard. If I can find it. I'm pretty bad at doing this. I should have this kind of stuff prepared.
But I've got a Stream Deck. I just haven't messed with it yet.
Where in the hell is it? Man, I'm so bad.
Somebody decided I need it for a present, and I don't know what to do with it yet, but I'm working on it. It's like, that's cool. I know I need one, but I don't know what to do with it.
Where is it? Man, this is so horrible. I know why. Because I put it down as that I'm sitting there going, why is it not showing it? Because I pulled it up as a.
Are you doing the wrong screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm boomering it. All right. Because I just saw it the other day. I was like, oh, that's a really cool picture.
If I made a list of all the things I boomered in a day, it would be scary. I'm just saying, I know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, well, I should know better. I used to
But
do this kind of crap for a
I used
living.
to do it for a church, and I used to do it at school. But you don't do it for a year or two, and everything's different.
There we
So
go.
yeah,
Share. Well, let's just do that. Present. Share screen. Window. Yeah, this right here. Share. So check that out.
oh my gosh,
So this I've found in a piece of dirt. It
just
was
in a piece of dirt.
yeah, it was. I actually dug up an old concrete post where someone had done the fence, and then they cut the
Wow.
top of the post off. And so this was sitting in our backyard, and I dug it up. Whenever I dug it up, this fell out of it because the concrete broke apart. Like at a certain point, it broke apart. This car is from the I want to say 40s, no 60s, so 1960s. This
Wow.
particular thing was made, and the only reason I know that is because that's the time that our house was built, and there was only one owner that lived in our house before us. They raised their kids in this
In the house. Yeah.
and so this was what I found in the backyard. I also found a little army man.
Oh,
Little
those
plastic
things
army
used to make me think bad words all the time because my son loved those things. That's how he managed to set fire to our yard. Was he was
setting
making
them
a
on fire.
no, he was making a fire for them to get warm
Oh,
and not thinking. And he was like him and his friend were like 8, 9 years old, and I come home. Thank God I came home when I did because what was supposed to be a fire for them to get warm and cook with ended up being like a good eighth of my yard. I was like, what were you doing? He's like, well, they need a fire to keep warm. I'm like, they're plastic. So needless to say, we had some melted hearts and melted army men in the process. But not to mention, if you step on those suckers in the middle of the night,
yes.
oh my God.
They're almost as bad as Legos.
Legos and dog food, that like the dog food pellets on the floor.
Yeah, so this little car actually was I had taken a little like a pick, because I have some from work that they got like little hooks on them. They almost look like one of the things that dentists use. It's just a hook, and some of them are a little bit flat. And I'm sitting there scraping off the little pieces, and all the paint on there is original. That thing is made out of like lead. And as I was pulling off the little chunks, the little tires, were still somewhat there, and I think they probably had rubber on them at some point in time. But as I got to the front curb, you see that big crack that's right here?
Yeah.
The whole thing broke in half and just started disintegrating.
But still, what a cool, thing to find.
Oh yeah. I was so impressed with that. Yeah. It's one of those odd little things that are just like, what would be the chances of finding it in the middle of the yard?
If you just left it in like 1,000 years, I'd say, look how little people were. Here's the cars they were in.
They couldn't even operate these things.
They couldn't even. We found giants now, right? But this is how small humans were at some point in history. And we laugh at that, but that's how stuff happens. They'll find something, make an assumption, and then everybody assumes it's true, and then they find out it's not true. They don't publicize that, and we just keep on repeating the lie.
Well, I'm sure you've seen this picture right here. As I posted it before.
You see Mandy in the background. She's the one you never see. Yes.
Okay, so this right here is something that I did.
Okay? You did that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let me show you the picture that I actually got this from. And it's pretty cool, because what it was is we were each given we have this group of people every Christmas. We get together and do some sort of weird art project. And what it was is take a picture and recreate it doing something interesting for another person, and you're given a list of people.
Yeah.
And so I created this one. As you can see, they got their little shoes, they got their helmets, you got the Darth Vader, got the little lightsaber. It looks a little awkward on the arm, but you'll understand why whenever I show you the
The
real
inspiration.
the actual picture for it, because you would not imagine that this is the picture that I got it from. Let me present this to you. This is the picture I got it from.
What? Oh, wow. No, I would have never guessed that. Not in a million years.
So what I did is I changed, and this is all done by hand. So I changed the painting in the background, changed it to red. I sort of made the buildings look like they were on another planet.
Another planet. Yeah.
Just changed the colors up, put little helmets on all the ducks or the geese.
I would never have guessed that one was not. I mean, no. That I would have said, "Where'd you get the Goodwill picture?"
That's what it was. It was a Goodwill picture.
Yeah, Goodwill picture. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I used to get my granddaughter those to paint, and she would paint over the canvases. You know what I mean? That's where we got cheap canvases for her to paint on, because she would recycle them essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, people, whenever I post weird stuff like that, that's usually because there was something that means something to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
kind of like the your zoo picture or your zoo video. Yeah. Yeah.
The turtles.
The turtles. The turtles.
And those ducks at the very end of it with their butts up in the air, that was taken in France last year.
That's awesome.
So yeah, those
awesome.
Those were some happy ducks. Happy ducks. But I think I will probably end it tonight, and everybody go check out Shelly. Not Shelly, goddamn it.
See,
Tish.
People do that, Vicky. They did it again. Actually, Shelly will be on my stream on Sunday, so that will be fun.
And confusing.
And show that we are not the same person. We do tend to talk at the same time when we're on a stream, like say the exact same thing at the exact same time.
Well, it's Vicky, Tish, Shelly, all three just constantly give me the greatest joy. Just constantly give me the greatest joy.
Well, and see, we all used to have a T in our name, but what happened was I was T in Tennessee. Yeah, Vicky said it wasn't her this time, but a lot of creators knew my name, so they just started saying it anyway. They wouldn't say T, they would say Tish. So I just gave up. I was like, forget it. I might as well, because people are like, what is your name again? So we used to have the T3 and Vicky T and then T in Tennessee, but people get me and Shelly mixed up a lot, which I think is awesome. Well, I know it's not awesome for her, it's an honor for me. But she's phenomenal.
And Shelly, you get those two on the same channel, and sometimes I can't tell who's talking unless I actually look down at it. And I recognize each one of their voice, but they both do a lot of the same kind of humor.
Same.
And so
same.
it just and it'll sometimes take me a second to go, was that Vicky or was that Shelly that just said that?
And when we had all three on a stream. I think it was on my channel, and people were no one knew who was talking, which I thought was funny.
Yes.
Because it's like, no, that one's Vicky, like the triad. We're the we're the T triad, basically.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but I appreciate you, brother. You know that.
Yes. And I thank you for coming on and just taking a little bit of time out of your evening.
Anytime.
And it's really good. It's good to get other people on here and let them, enjoy it just as much, and I'll return the favor anytime.
Absolutely. So,
but what we're gonna throw a little bit of duck butt up there, and
let's throw the duck butt up. Yeah, we're gonna throw the duck butt up. So.
But we gotta have the turtles for them. Show them a little bit of love.
We do.
And just think, as these turtles are swimming along, that one turtle is looking at it, going, "Come on, baby, don't run away from me. Don't go away. come back to daddy.
I still think
I know
you
she
need
was
to
your
do a
sister.
voiceover.
I know she was
Yeah,
your sister,
doesn't
but
matter.
forgive me, baby. Forgive me. Just imagine that's what he's saying to her right now.
I
in
will
the
never
background.
look at it the same way again after you just said that.
I love you guys. We'll catch you all later and have a good evening. Don't let the world bring you down with all of this drama. It's only short-lived and you'll be able to survive through all of it. But y'all enjoy. Peace.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Exótica.